Kevin, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to chat with me, and I wanted to just take some time to get to know you a little bit more and understand what you do at Primitive Logic. So thanks for jumping on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I think like a good place to start is, who is Primitive Logic?
Sure. At a high level, we're a business and technology consulting services company. So we truly partner with our customers. We only have experienced consultants. We've been doing consulting for 30 years, really across all industries.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And what do you like? What's the problem that you guys are typically solving?
At a high level, we solve digital transformation problems. And we've been doing this, as I said, for over 30 years. I know that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So, the problems that we typically hear all the time and are solving, customers have poor alignment with business and IT. So their IT roadmap doesn't really match their business priorities. They have really lack of value, or they're not getting any value from their data. They may have a disjointed customer experience, could be from an acquisition or just over the years from growth, which also usually involves, poor data quality or lack of systems integration. Also, a lot of the problems we see are just manual, inefficient processes. Uh,
Hmm.
Companies can't comply with data privacy. And then some, they've had a merger or acquisition, they're just not getting the benefit because they have duplicate systems or processes. Those are probably the most common problems that we solve for our clients.
So what do you think's unique? And those are big problems, obviously. And I think, they're problems that people probably don't think about until it kind of blows up on them, unfortunately. So what do you think's unique about the way that Primitive approaches these problems and solves them, really?
Yeah, we definitely take a very mindful approach. We don't think there's a one size fits all. And just because there's a new cool technology doesn't mean you need to use it. Really taking that approach to what makes sense for you based on where you are as a company right now and what your priorities are. We really want to tailor an answer to what you need versus trying to do everything. So we're looking out for our customers' best interests. And I think a big part of that, as I mentioned, we only have experienced people. So we average 15 to 20 years of experience. So these are people that have been around for that many years, having done this across multiple industries, multiple different clients. And the fact that as a company, we've been doing this for 34 years, we've kind of seen it all. And a lot of things come back around. So the problems that we were solving 20 plus years ago in terms of clients not knowing who their customers were or systems not being integrated, not getting value out of their data, those are the same problems we're seeing today. There's
Yeah.
different technologies that can help you solve that, but we've solved these problems over and over again. So we can take that background and experience and combine that with the experience of our resources and our team to really get the right answer for our clients.
So I guess what I'm hearing is, you're solving problems where a company has data and maybe that data isn't clean in the sense that they don't have a handle on what's in the silo of data. And maybe it's in a different system, so it's stuck in spots. So you're trying to help solve the problem of having the data in maybe not just one system, but talking across multiple systems.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Either systems, they're not talking, they're not getting the value out of the data because it's either not clean, it's different data and different systems that aren't talking. You don't have a complete picture of your customer, who your customer is, because it is in multiple places. It could be that you're moving to the cloud, and so some data that you have is in cloud, some's on premise, and you don't have a good way of putting that together. It could be that your data isn't really secure, and with all the new data privacy regulations coming out from GDPR to the California Privacy Act, could be that you're just not compliant with some of those and need help kind of getting your act together and really understanding it. A lot of companies have grown, very quickly, which is great. They're doing very well, but the documentation may not be fully up to date. They may not really understand what all the data they have is, which is definitely a problem we've seen in a lot of companies. They don't have a clear picture of what they have or what they're doing with their data. And it's hard to get benefit and value out of that if you really don't know what you have in the first place.
So if I'm working with Primitive Logic, what type of company am I?
Yeah, we work with companies that are mid-sized companies to Fortune 50 companies,
Okay.
and some companies we work across industry as well. We've worked with some clients for over 30 years, so we've done well over 100 different statements of work or different projects with multiple of our clients. And we think that really speaks highly of the value we bring is, we come in there, do a good job on a project, and then we get invited back for another. And the fact that we've done this over 100 times at multiple different clients, 100 times at one specific client, but multiple clients, I think speaks a lot. So like I said, it's across industry because we use that experience. Companies, industries, there's some absolutely unique things about them, but otherwise, a lot of the processes and getting a handle on your data, your customers, your systems really is very similar across industry.
And what sort of role are you usually interfacing with? Like, are you dealing with people that are like C-level? Is there one particular functional department?
Yeah, it really does vary depending on the size of the company. At the smaller companies or mid-sized companies, a lot of times it could be the legal counsel, it could be the director of IT or CIO, it could be someone who runs sales or marketing. So it really just depends. It's someone who's running a large kind of mission critical project, depending on the size of the company. At the larger companies, it's typically not at that level. We're really not doing high level business strategy. We're taking that, kind of the Bain McKinsey strategy down to a level that's manageable and that we can actually implement. So it definitely varies across the companies. And yeah, we just want to make sure that we can come in there and make a difference. And our goal is to almost be unseen in a sense. We're there, we're partnering with our customers. Our goal is to make them look good. We don't want credit for anything. That's not why we're there. We're there to make sure that our clients are looking good. Whoever we're working with can get the job done, and we can kind of quietly be there to support them.
So it sounds like, for example, like if I'm a leader in a company, I'm in the legal department, I'm probably reaching out to you because I have what problem and what pain.
Yeah, typically on the legal side, it's around the data privacy.
Data
So
privacy.
with all the new regulations coming down in data privacy, there's definitely legal aspects that you need to do to understand what the new laws are and how they apply to you. But the bulk of the work you have to do is really around the data side. The whole point of data privacy is providing transparency. So what data of yours do we have? What are we doing with it? How are we using it? Who are we selling it to? There was just another breach, I think, in the last day or
I
two.
just saw that.
It just came up,
Like
and
half a billion users, right? And it was like,
exactly,
I forget
exactly.
who
And
was that had the breach. I can't remember.
I think it was Marriott.
Marriott. I
This
like,
last breach.
oh my God, that's huge. And I'm like, well, I'm probably on that list.
Right, I'm sure I am as well. And I mean, we helped a different hotel, right, chain get a handle on their credit card information, and we did a tokenization project to make sure they didn't have the credit cards there to protect them in that sense. So it's various different things, but a lot of it goes back to the data and what data do you have. If you get breached, which is likely, right? Someone's going to be out there, but it's a question of did you
It's
take the right precautions,
right.
right, to protect the data? Do you even know what you have? So many companies, when we talk to them and ask about, say, their retention policy, the answer is we retain everything because we don't know what we're going to need down the road. We may need it, but the reality is companies have far more data than they probably need. They probably have it in multiple places, and they probably have it in places where they aren't even aware and they're not using it. So if you have a better sense of what you have and how you're using it from a business point of view, what those processes are, then we can help companies eliminate data that they don't need, eliminate redundant data, and make sure they're controlling and protecting the data, because data is not all the same, right? There's certain data that's going to be higher risk, whether it's financial data, health data. So let's make sure that that data is more protected, and not just from whether it's encryption or anonymization, but also just from who has access to it, and how many systems is that in, and does it need to be in as many systems as it's in, and who is it going to, right? Is it going to partners or vendors, and does it need to?
I, I guess what I'm hearing is like, if you're any sort of a leader, whether it's legal or a C-level leader, and you're seeing this happen to a Marriott, that you can't just assume that you have everything under control. That maybe it's worthwhile reaching out to someone like Primitive Logic and saying, what do you think? What do you assess? Have that independent voice that looks at the systems, looks at the data, and gives feedback so that you at least have that level of comfort, right? Yeah, you've addressed it, or here's how you can improve it. This is
Yeah,
a big deal, right? Like that's like a huge, scary thing that happened to a company.
it is. And I think when we talk to most leaders out there, it's not a question of if you're going to get breached, it's a question of when. And so obviously there's a lot of protections, a lot of things you can do to make that less likely to happen. But at some point, chances are you may get breached. And so knowing that, right, let's take the other side of the data. Can you reduce the amount of data you have? Can you do better protections? And not just from a security point of view, but can you protect the data you have by giving fewer people access to it, by having
Mm.
it in fewer systems, by like we did for one company, tokenizing the data. Are there things you can do to make yourself more secure, have less of the data that you may not need anyway, So that way, if you do get breached, you don't have as much at risk. And it's certainly not as much of the sensitive data that's at risk. It's going to happen at some point. We've seen it from so many different companies out there. Every week, you hear about somebody else that got breached.
Right.
A lot of them, it probably takes a long time for them to figure out not just that they got breached, but what data was breached, because
Right.
they may not know even what they have or where it's coming from or where it's going. So if you have a better way just to document and understand what you have and what you're doing with it, then if and when you do get breached, you can handle it much better than saying it could be anyone. It could be 400 million users. Maybe you have it narrowed down to a fewer, smaller set or less data.
So on a less scary topic would be if I'm a sales and marketing leader or even a customer support leader, I could talk to Primitive Logic about using the data in a way that's better or making sure I understand what data I even have, right? Is that
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many times have you called in? I won't mention any names, but how many times have you called into a company, and you're talking to someone, their answer is, "Well, I can't help you. We just acquired that company. Go talk to somebody else." Or you're talking to a company, and the first question they ask is, "Well, what products do you have?" They should
right?
already know that, right? They
That's
have that
true, right?
information, just not getting to them. Wouldn't it be a much better conversation to say, "Hey, Michael, I can see that you bought this product about 6 months ago. Is that what you're having trouble with? Or I can see that you have these three things here. How can I help you?" It's much more personalized than saying, "So, what's the problem you have?" Or, "I don't know what products," or, "Wait, hold on a minute. Let me look that up." And then they still can't figure that out. So from a sales and marketing point of view, that's the service side of that. From a
Yep.
sales side as well, if you're going to do any kind of cross sell or upsell, again, it would be great to know, well, I know you already have this product or this product here, and you've had it for a couple of years. We've got a new version coming out, or we have some other product that's really compatible with that. You may be interested in this. But if you don't know exactly what I have, and that's for an individual, think about it from a company point of view, that if you don't know all the products my company has, and how
Right.
those tie together, maybe again, because you've done multiple acquisitions over time, then how can you really service me?
Makes
And
sense.
take it to a higher level. You look at a large company that has acquired many other ones. Most companies don't have a roll up of that. So you know what products you sold to an individual or what products you sold to a subsidiary of that company. But if you've got a roll up of everything that company has, all the products, the number of users, it's a lot easier to come up with an overall, company agreement or license agreement that goes across everybody that works out for both. But you have to have that data.
Yeah, when you start thinking about it, it's really imperative to understand like who's your customer, what have you sold to them, what should they be buying next, and then knowing how to use that data in a way that gets that message out to them so that they you retain them.
Well, and it's interesting because a lot of companies that we've worked with don't even have a great sense yet of who their customer is. And it sounds simple, but depending on who you ask, if you ask the shipping department, it may be a customer is based on an address, right? If you ask the
Mhm.
sales department, it may be, well, our customers are leads, but what about those that have already converted? So some of it up front is just getting all of the business and IT the same understanding of what that definition of the customer is. So we're all speaking the same language, because it's hard to get your data aligned around customer if one person thinks it's an individual, another thinks it's a company, someone else thinks it's a shipping address.
Mhm.
And again, as companies grow over time, that happens. You have companies that are doing really well, selling a lot. They're focused on the business. The last thing they're focused on is making sense of the data, but that is very important. And it also helps in terms of data privacy. If you've got your customer information, in a sense, in one place versus all over, it's much easier to secure one system than 50 data's all over the place.
50, yeah. Oh my goodness. So, can you give me an idea of like some of the clients that you had that had these problems? They reached out to you. What was the world like after they worked with you? And then maybe I don't know if you have any examples that you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, general clients. I mean, I can't share a specific problem from a specific client, with confidentiality. But general, clients we've worked with, and we have a lot on our website, so it's public. We've done a lot of work with companies like Wells Fargo Bank and First Republic, McKesson, for some of the larger ones. We've worked with a company called Fond that does for that helps give employee recognition. Um, so we've really worked across the board at a number of companies, and it really depends on what we're doing. For one of them we worked with, and this is fun, we did a case study with them on this around data privacy. Um, where they were afterwards is they actually got a request from someone to delete their data. They were pretty excited about this because that's
Wow.
part of what the data privacy regulations give them. But after we had finished the work with them, they knew what to do. and they could do that and handle that. So in that sense, it was excitement. Others, could be relief that they've gotten this done and don't have to worry about it anymore. But really how customers feel is they got something done, and they got it done in a way that was easy, right? Even as difficult as projects are, we want to be a company that's easy to do business with,
Mm.
easy to work with. We want to be there and be part of your team. You never have to worry about where things are, what's going on. You don't have to see us as someone different if we're part of your team. We just want to be there to help you succeed. So as individual clients have a mission critical project, something going on where they're just short on resources and need help, we want to come in and fit into their team, be part of them, and just get it done. So we don't want any kind of recognition for, we don't want to be seen as anything other than, hey, we helped you do your job and we helped you do it very well. And the next time you have something that's important and you need help on, you know who to turn to, because we can come in there with the right people and get it done. We want to make your life easier and take problems away, right? The last thing we want to do is cause you extra grief. So our goal is to help our clients succeed as individuals and as a company.
So if I'm any sort of, sounds like mid-market to even small fortune type company, what's the first step in working with you?
I mean, the first step, obviously is reaching out. Typically when the first conversation we have is really listening, right? We don't want to talk about everything we do. We want to talk about what some of the concerns you have are, what some of the problems you're going through. And when you asked me at the beginning about some of the problems, you notice I didn't go through any of our services. I
Right.
talked about problems around data or data privacy or business not being aligned to IT, because it's really not about us, right? It's about you as a client and understanding what your concerns are, what problems you're having, right? What you're trying to accomplish. So it really is a conversation where we're listening and you're opening up about some of the things that are on your mind, some of the problems you're encountering and where you want to get. And then it's just an open dialogue on, can we help? We're not everything to everyone. So ideally there's something that we can help with. If not, we're going to be very open and honest, say, hey, that's not our area. But if it's something that we can help with, then we'll drill down a little bit further. And we'll talk about, for example, is it a business process issue where you have outgrown your manual processes because now you're getting bigger and bigger and need to automate that, or just need to make improvements on that? Is there possibly a technology solution that goes along with that?
Hmm.
And technology is never going to be the answer on its own, so it's usually a combination of both. But it could be simply a business problem. It could be both. So it really is listening to what you're trying to accomplish, understanding your priorities, understanding some of your pain points, and then helping craft what that solution may be with you. When I say with you, it's with you, not for you, right? We don't want to go away and say, well, here's what we think, because it doesn't matter what we think. Again, it's about you. And I think that's the real difference we want our clients to experience is we're here for them. We're here to figure out how we can help them solve their problems, make their life easier, get information they need, implement a system, a project in a better, more efficient way, make sure they come in under budget. But again, it's really understanding what your problem is first, and then coming back to see how we can work with you to help solve that and fit into your team.
Well, and I see these problems all the time, particularly when there's like a CRM engagement or ERP or even marketing automation engagements, and data is always really important. But then making sure that the data is in the system correctly, the systems are talking to each other, and I feel like they're like these dark little secrets that are in organizations that just keep pushing it down the line. That we know we might have this problem, but it sounds like by reaching out to you guys that you have a way to listen, figure out the problem, and then propose solutions to it.
Yeah, too many companies we've seen feel that implementing some technology solution is going to be the answer, and figuring out the best one, right? And that's rarely the case, right? Usually there are multiple answers that will work, but it's not just the technology solution alone. It's the process that goes around with that. It's the change management to get everyone on board and make sure they're using it in the right way. It's making sure that you are, for the most part, limiting customization, which everyone says they want to do, but it's easier said than done, right? And
Yeah.
just figuring out what's right for you. But yeah, so much is, let's not just implement something, and let's not implement a system that implements our existing inefficient processes, right? Let's look at how we might want to improve those first. So it is taking a step back and doing one thing at a time, but it is looking at what that end goal is. What are you trying to accomplish? If you're implementing, as you said, a new marketing system, why are you doing it, right? Are you doing it because what you have just doesn't meet your needs? And if so, what are those needs? What are those business drivers? Because we want to make sure that companies can track back at the end, did you accomplish what you needed to accomplish? Did you hit those drivers or those KPIs? Implementing a system by a certain date is great, but that's really not what we're trying to do. We're trying to meet business needs and business goals.
That's
And if
interesting.
implementing a system, right, helps you meet those goals, then let's make sure we can track back and match that. But it really does start with the business side and understanding the drivers, the goals, the requirements, so we can make sure that you've met those at the end.
Well, I think you hit on really like big pain points in a lot of organizations, whether they talk about it or not. And it's surprising how big the company can be or small where they have those problems. And you see the after effect and trying to clean it up. So that's why I was really interested in talking to you, because I think what you guys do is unique, and it sounds like you've got a way to help companies that maybe they haven't thought of before.
Yeah, and sometimes it's even just giving a different perspective, right? The client may have all the right knowledge and expertise, and certainly from the business side, but sometimes having a company like us come in, since we've seen this across industry and done this so many times, it's an outside perspective that we can really partner with their internal knowledge of how things work to come up with the best answer together and help align. Business and IT alignment can be challenging for a lot of companies with the budget pressures they're under, the lack of resources. There's so many priorities. And so again, sometimes an outside company coming in can help really facilitate that and get business and IT working well together. Again, it's just that outside perspective coupled with their internal knowledge of the company that can really get the best answer.
And you hit on something which is interesting, which is bridging the gap between those siloed departments.
Right.
You don't always
Right.
communicate great. So that's really interesting. Well, listen, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I'm glad you jumped on, because I think what you guys do is really unique and important. So is there anything else you think that we haven't touched on that you think is important for people to understand?
No, I think you hit the highlights.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Kevin. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.